Welcome to the Sailplane Grand Prix on day 7 here in Potchefstroom. We're 110 kilometres south-southwest of Johannesburg, here in sunny South Africa. Lovely sunny day today, but very, very windy. Weather conditions today, if you follow me around there, you can see we've got some overdevelopment behind me, and off to our north we've got some wave, which it certainly influenced the task yesterday. And over to the south again, if we come around this way, you can see again a little bit of overdevelopment happening down there. So it's going to be a tricky old day. We're stuck in the middle here with a blue hole, bit of wave around, and the pilots are going to be launching early today. Just a recap on the results from yesterday. And in third place, John Coots using the wave to make the lack. Quite really windy here now. Make the lack go. And in second place, Christophe Abaday, and in first place, Holger Caro. And that did Holger no harm at all, and he's now leading overall with 30 points. Christophe Abaday, second place with 28 points. Third is Sebastian Kawa with 26 points, and local hero Oscar on 25. So all to play for today. Got Oscar here. Oscar, you got a moment for us? I'm good, and you?
Good. Freshly reset. So we're going to race again today.
Not such a good day yesterday.
Yeah, I couldn't find a lift after the second turn, and I was, just after the first gaggle and just before in front of the second gaggle, and on my own in the blue and the wind like this, and it's not really a nice position to be in. But as I said previously, Grand Prix is a do or die game. I was in the wrong mode yesterday. I didn't actually think we're going to make the task, so I went into survival mode instead of race mode, but you live and you learn.
So the race mode chips in today?
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. I'm going to burn it today.
Have a fantastic day, Oscar. We'll see you back here later. Right, okay, just wandering down the grid here, see who else we can find. Actually, we've got Peter here, Peter Newens. He's our weatherman. Peter, what have you got in store for us today?
I think we might handle a task, the overdevelopment is still subdued. So, yeah, it's a question, but I think it'll be a nice day. Getting one last task. Lovely. Good.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for all your hard work this week. Right, who else have we got down here? Bostian from Slovenia. Bostian, how was yesterday for you?
Very interesting. It was like in France, Mistral, but with no ridges, no mountains. So it was, yeah. I was quite lucky to finish the task, and yeah, strong wind. Poor Thomas.
Have you enjoyed this week?
Well, I expected a little bit different weather than this kind of Africa, and yeah, it was flyable. That's most important.
And what are your thoughts about today?
Again, Mistral with no mountains. No, but the clouds are looking much nicer than yesterday. I think it will be interesting. I hope that they will not overdevelop, and to have a lot of rain, storms on the task area. But it might be interesting.
Best of luck today. We've seen you up there, so we're looking forward to seeing you pushing. Peter, have you got a moment for us? If you don't blow away. Yeah, it's windy today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very windy. Its prediction is for the 100 kilometers per hour. Yeah, it's terrible for it. Yesterday was maximum 75 kilometers per hour. That was impossible for the flying, I think, because thermaling from the small high was very terrible. Yeah.
And today, do you think it'd be better or worse?
Yeah, I don't believe it. Yeah, I don't believe this weather, because the prediction for the thunderstorm is very early. Yes, I don't know what will be. We will see.
We will always see. You're optimistic as ever. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
Good to see you. And just over here, we've got Sebastian. Sebastian, good result yesterday. Kept you up there in the points. What can you do today?
I'm happy that yesterday I got any points, because starting as the last one, I had no chances to get to the start line on time. When I climbed, I was 10 kilometers downwind, so starting as the last and getting any points, it's an achievement for me, so I am happy about yesterday.
You were a little low coming across the finish line yesterday.
Yes, everybody was low. I was maybe not lucky enough to fly alone, and this is a little hill here, so it's probably that I was in the wrong place and more seeing than others, and I plan to land in the lake or start the engine over the lake because there's no other places for a landing. So, but it turned out it was enough to come to the airfield.
Well, we're very glad to see you back on the airfield and here to fly again today. You're very close to the front of the fleet. Can you win this competition from here?
Everybody can win. Oh, I think not from these 3-4 people. Everybody can win this competition. It's not that difficult to get, and I think the winner today gets extra points. So it's 3 points over the second one. So it's enough that I'm first, Abadi is second, and Alpha Golf is third, and then I'm winner. So it's not that difficult, but you have to win. it's always if you win, you win. Yeah. And we don't know this area yet. Myself, I'm surprised with the weather yesterday. I'm surprised with the weather today, and I have no idea what it will look like. So I will have to learn from others as well.
Okay, well, we wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you back here for the prize giving. Cheers, thanks again. And that's probably it from the grid. We'll go back in the commentary box and bring you the race live. Our final day of the Sailplane Grand Prix. It's the 7th in the series for our final race today. The weather outside, a bit indifferent, not typical South African weather, we have to say. We've got some congestion way over to the west and quite a bit over to the east. And in the middle, we've got a blue patch, and it's howling. The wind is blowing 20 to 25 knots. We've managed to launch all the competitors, and I've got nothing on my screen bench. They're all climbing. Last we saw up to 3,000 meters. Just giving you a closer in view of where we are. There's the task for today. Orientated to the north. You see all the competitors are now airborne. Luciano Avanzini from Italy up at 3,200 meters, and the lowest is Carlos Roca from Chile in Zulu Papa, 2,300 meters and climbing. We've got 12 minutes and 23 seconds to go before the start, so we'll just run you through the task today. We've got a task length of 205 kilometers. So from the airfield here, they head west-southwest to 10.1, which is Dominionville, 72 kilometers, the first leg. And from there, they turn almost back on themselves and fly northeast up to Buckingham, a task length of, a leg length of 88 kilometers. And from there, they have a 38 kilometer leg heading back south-southeast, which brings them back towards the spreader mark, November 12, which is just over the N12, and then back into the airfield for 8 kilometers. So total task length 205, nearly 206 kilometers today. As I say, really, really windy day. A lot of pessimism on the grid as we were walking around, but we can see good cumulus now out of the window. Climb rates look to be good, and we've got competitors all around the 28, 29, 3,000 meter mark. We've got 10 minutes and 55 seconds to go. Start maximum altitude today for the start is 8,000 feet. That's 2,438 meters. And they have to control their speed as they go across the start line. This is a safety, for safety reasons. So they can't fly any faster than 170 kilometers an hour or 91 knots. So this is basically to stop them diving at the start line. Also, the other rules around the start are, with 5 minutes to go, they can only turn left, This again, it's a non-contact sport, so we try to make sure that everybody turns the same direction. And with 1 minute to go, they need to be behind the line and its extensions. So just looking at the group at the moment, we've got Christophe Abadé, Philippe de Pesci, and Jan from Germany in Zulu Zulu, bottom left hand of the screen, and Jan there, just looking at his altitudes, they're 2,500, 2,600 meters, so they need to go and find a better climb. And over with Simon Schroeder and Sebastian Carval, they're at 2,800 and Simon at 2,800. They look like they have a better climb there, so they're just going to join them. The wrong side of the line at the moment is Mike Young, Jean Denis from France, and I think that's Bostian at the very top of the screen, and Oscar. They'll be working their way back behind the line. I say very, very windy here today, and the wind is coming from the northwest, so the first leg is crosswind, coming from right to left on the screen. Just looking to see who else is climbing. Yeah, we've got climb rates of 1 meter up to 2 meters. They need to make those climbs a bit better than that to keep up with this very, very strong wind we've got today. Just going into the results. Unfortunately, what I've been given is the overalls, not the race results from yesterday, but I do have them tucked away. So in third place yesterday was John Coots, who managed to use the wave to his advantage yesterday, and he managed to sneak into third place. Christophe Abadé from France was in second, and just in front of him, Holger Caro from Germany. So that leaves the overall position to be in fifth place, Andy Davis on 21 points. Fourth place is Oscar Houdrian from South Africa on 25 points. In third place is Sebastian Carva from Poland on 26 points. And in second place, Christophe Abadé on 28 points. And with a 2-point lead, Holger Caro from Germany on 30 points. Just looking west out of the window, we've got a great picture that René, our referee, is showing me of the flags being ripped off the poles by the look of it. And some great streets, actually, we can see around the 10,000, 11,000 foot mark. So if they can pick up a couple of those streets or jump a few streets down the first leg, they should be going pretty well. Time to go now, just coming up to 7 minutes. With this crosswind first leg, the tactics we would expect would be the competitors to favour the upwind end of the line. That's the right-hand end of the line that we're looking at now, with the Land Rover banner on, and then we would think that they would try and stay to the right-hand side of the track. Mind you, they haven't done anything we thought they would do so far this week, so today's probably going to be no different. Pilots now, Luciano still at 3,000 meters. Christophe Abadé just looking to see his height. He's not very high, 2,500 meters. So Christophe, who's got a chance of winning here, he is climbing though, 1.8 meters now, 2,500 meters, and he's 2 or 3 kilometers behind the line. There's another significant group a little bit further upwind, and I can see in there Holger Caro, Sebastian Carva, and Simon Schroeder, day one winner, Andy Davis, Peter Krajcek, and Matthias Stern, who will be trying very hard to get himself out of the 0 points club. Matthias actually scored points yesterday, and he's got 3 points, so he's out of the club. So the club is now very exclusive, with only 3 members. Freddy Barthélemy from France, Carlos Roca from Chile, and Vladas Mutuza from Lithuania are on 0 points, and they'll all be desperately keen to pick up a point and come out of that club. Down at the downwind end of the line, we've got Jean Denis and Mike Young climbing together. Jean Denis 2,800 meters, Mike Young 2,888. Just a fraction above, working together. Start time now, 5 minutes to go. So these guys can only turn left. Fortunately, they are turning left. Otherwise, they'd have to change direction. And they don't have to be behind the line until 1 minute to go. So 4 minutes and 40 seconds to go. Just a reminder of the task. We've got a 206 kilometre race today, heading first west-southwest to Dominionville. I wonder where whether the Minions live. But, anyway, from Dominionville, 72 kilometres away from here, they then turn northeast to Buckingham, 88 kilometres, and from there downwind to the checkpoint November 12, which is 38 kilometres, and then a short hitch 8 kilometres into the finish. Finish height today is 4,800 feet. That's 1,463 metres. So it's quite possible that if they get a decent climb 2/3 of the way up the second leg, they could make the rest of the task in one go. Just thinking about yesterday, one of the key happenings, Oscar Hudrian, who was out in the lead at one point with 25 points, didn't score any at all. He got caught between two groups, ended up on his own in the blue, very, very low, couldn't get a climb, had to fire up his engine to come home. So no points for Oscar, and that puts Oscar down in 4th place with 25 points. But again, if he gets lucky today and some of the others don't have the same luck, he could still win, or certainly be on the podium. And talking to him on the grid earlier, he was very keen, all fired up, wants to show that South Africans can really win at Sailplane Grand Prix racing. Now with 2 minutes and 45 seconds to go, the competitors are working their way back behind the line. We're just keeping an eye on Christophe Abadé. Again, in second place at the moment overall. He's still down at 2,500 metres, and he won't want to stay there for long. He needs a decent climb. Whilst he's above the start height, he's got quite a long way to run to the line, and he would lose all of that altitude on the way. So he's coming to join the group there with Vladis and Sebastian, and who else we got in there? Peter Krajcek, Holger Caro, we're all staying together. And Jan Omsels, who landed out yesterday, he's on his way across to join that group. Jan at 2,663 metres. Scored quite a few points this week, Jan. He's 9 points so far. Didn't finish yesterday. Found another field. Introduced himself to another farmer. So 1 minute and 45 seconds to go. And Holger Carroll looks like he's setting off towards the line. We've got a couple of competitors that are in front of the line, and they'll need to move pretty quick. Oscar needs to get back. He's got 30 seconds to get back over the line, and the same with Bostian from Slovenia. Looks like Oscar will make it comfortably. Weather today, not true South African weather. It's very, very windy. We've got quite a lot of build-up to the west and to our east, and we're in a bit of a sweet spot here at the airfield, so the task doesn't take them too far away, only 72 kilometres on the first leg. Bostian looks like he's the wrong side of the line within the 1 minute, so he'll get some penalties for that. But he's high, that's the key to it. He's 2,600 metres. So he'll be managing that altitude. Meanwhile, the rest of them, at the bottom of your screen, you can see Christophe Abadé, Andy Davis, and then a group just in front. Simon Schroeder, Vladis, Sebastian, Jan, and Freddie Bartholomew, all running in together. 20 seconds to go now. Mike Young and John Denis running along the line, trying to get to that windward end, and they'll just turn left to go across the line as it starts to count now with 6 seconds to go. Oscar favouring the other end. Mike now just starting to turn left, as is Jean-Denis. And across the line. The line is now open. So for the first time, we've actually seen the fleet do what we thought they would do, which is to start at the windward end of the line. Mike carrying on, heading into wind. Jean-Denis heading more or less along track. Oscar doing his own thing at the leeward end or leeward end of the line, the downwind end. Philippe Depeschi there, also with him. So just looking at our overall leaders and finding out where they've got to. So Holger Caro in the mix there, 3 or 4 back from the front. Christophe Abadet didn't have a good start. He was low, he's still low, but coming across the line behind the others. He will have a slight advantage in that he will be able to see where the others are going, and he'll be able to see which group climb better than another. So it's possible for him to drag himself back up. Oscar's off somewhere different. I don't quite know why. Oscar 2,500 meters. Perhaps he's found a climb. We'll keep an eye on him. But meanwhile, the rest of them, yes, we can see Oscar has got a 3-meter climb. So he's come a long way left from the rest. And he's going to try and keep that climb going. That's a good 3-meter climb. Meanwhile, out in front of the leading bunch, we've got Mike Young pushing to the right of the track, Jean-Denis staying more or less on track, and the rest following along. Brian's come back in from outside. What can you tell us, Brian?
It's interesting, Sean. We've got away smartly. You've got nice cumulus on track. I don't know how high you're seeing here, but they seem to be about 3,000 meters, the cumulus base.
Yep.
We've got already the beginnings of some overdevelopment in the south, and on track, the cumulus are beginning to rise. I don't know if you've talked about the overall weather situation, did you?
Several times, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a race against each other and a race against time. Because the weather will deteriorate. The forecast says that it will be raining here at 3 o'clock. The convection will grow until it starts to rain, and it's a race against the time because we've got to get these guys back before then. So we've been in a hurry to get them out of here this morning.
So just to bring you up to date, Brian, most of the competitors went across the windward end of the line, as you'd expect, and heading out slightly right of track, the windward side of the track. But Oscar went through the downwind end of the line and went and found himself a climb. So he's a couple of 100 meters above the others, but quite a lot further downwind now.
Well, that's a risky strategy. On a last competition day, and with it all being very close together, one would expect this to be quite a tactical game. And it seems like Oscar, who's lying in 4th place and about, 4 or 5 points behind, he's decided that his best chance is to take his own route. I must admit, looking at the sky and the route he's taking, he has got good cumulus on that route, and it may be he's decided that if he flies with the gaggle, they'll only follow him. So it may be he's decided to avoid flying with the gaggle and make his own way and avoid having them following him.
The other group are still pushing on, and we just saw a photo earlier on of the sky outside, and it looked like there was a very good street to the right-hand side, which looks like that's what Vladis and Mike Young and Jan are following, closely followed by Sebastian Bostian, John Coots, Andy Davis, Simon Schroeder, Holger Caro and Luciano, and also Peter Krychek in there as well.
Oh,
Christophe, he didn't. Christophe Abadet didn't have a good start.
No.
He was low, and he's still low. Went across the line a couple of 100 meters below the others and 2 kilometers behind them.
That won't start his day well, will it? But he will undoubtedly try to catch up with that gaggle, and if the gaggle get in slow because nobody wants to push on and lead, then he'll be able to catch them up.
Meanwhile, it looks like the leading bunch on the right-hand side, Vladis and Mike Young, look like they're trying a turn. The sort of splinter group that went down the middle was Jean Denis, Philippe Depeche and Carlos Roca. Jean Denis tried a turn and it didn't work, so they're carrying on.
Well, one would expect that some of these really talented pilots will try to push away and try to make a really big day of it. I can't imagine people like Mike Young or Peter Krajcek or Vladas wanting to fly with the pack. I can imagine them wanting to see if today could be the day when they can get a podium position on the day. There's some pride at stake today, even if they can't get into the overall podium position.
Yeah. Everybody wants to win the last day, don't they?
Yeah. And the group will as quite often not move as quickly to start with, because nobody really wants to be the one that gets out in front. But we can see Jan there. He's a bit of an independent thinker. Maybe he's decided that it's his day to go get out in front.
Meanwhile, the rest of the group are trying to centre this thermal, trying to get the most out of it. Looks like 1.5 to 2 metre climbs.
Sebastian staying in there with them, and Romeo Zulu's tucked in there with them. So they're going to look like there's two separate cores, and nobody's really got a clean climb. Andy's just coming into the first one now.
Same sort of height as Mike Young in Zulu Bravo.
2,100 metres. They're not really high, but they are under good cumulus. There's a lot of energy in the sky. We're all wondering where Oscar is and if he's managing to get a better run along to the south of the track there. If we zoom out a little, maybe we'll see if he's managing to pace them.
We've just seen Jan push out on his own and find himself a thermal on his Todd. Just 2 metres.
We can be sure that all of our South African friends who are watching today will want to be watching Oscar. They'll want to be keeping up to date with his position. Similar height to the others, but he's already beginning to get a bit of a rhythm going by the look of it. He's running along quite well. His speed's good. Looks like he's climbing, although I suspect that's just a pull-up there, and it's just a slow down to use the energy. The race doesn't really get going now until they get back up to cloud base and start to get confident about putting the speed up and trying to push on ahead.
Yeah. Big pull-ups from Oscar, 4 to 5 metre pull-ups.
He'll be feeling comfortable. He's on his own home ground here, and he's got his sights on the top of the podium. I don't think he's very interested in the 2 steps down.
No, indeed. Well, he has to win today and hope that the others that are ahead of him don't do so well.
Yeah.
So there's a 5-point gap between himself and Holger Caro.
So he's got to beat Holger by 5 points. Don't forget it's a bonus point for the last day.
Do we get a bonus point? So it's 11 points for first, is it?
Mr. Referee, can you check that? We're pretty sure we get a bonus point on the last day. Just check the rules for us, can you? I'm pretty sure that's the rules now.
Nothing like putting the referee on the spot, is there?
No, we're getting doing some work.
Yeah.
Just look on. No.
Anyway, we'll come back to you on that. As a bead of sweat forms on René's brow.
Yeah, we've got to get the referee working here because everybody else is going along here.
So looking back at the race here, we've got Oscar out on his own to the left. Down the middle, we've got Jean Denis, and just trying to work out who that is behind him. A couple of others with him, and I'm pretty sure that Carlos Roca was in there. And then on the right-hand side, we've got the rest of the main pack with Holger Caro. Actually, sorry, Carlos Roca's in the right-hand pack now. With Vladis, Andy Davis, Mike Young, John Coots, Peter Krajcek, all working together. Simon Schroeder there too, day one winner.
Oscar's doing really well. He's cruising along and he's still up at 2,500 feet. So it's an additional 1 point bonus to the winner of the day on the last designated competition day.
So,
So the
rather
winner
than
gets
10 points,
11.
you get 11 points. Okay, right.
So he gets a double bonus today. He gets his bonus for winning and he gets a bonus because it's the last day.
last day. Yeah. Okay.
So that's a good incentive.
It
to get
is.
home
It
first.
is. It's definitely worth winning the last race of the Grand Prix.
So maybe Sebastian's decided it's a day for really pushing. He seems to be leading. We don't very often see Sebastian at the front at this time in the flight. We usually see him sitting back a little bit, but I suppose he realizes that that bonus point is all to go for, and you can't wait on a 200-kilometer flight, even in a windy day like this. It's going to be 2 hours flying, but you can't wait.
So they're now all coming back together again here. Jan and Philippe Depeschi and Jean Denis scoring a good thermal, and they're all coming in to join them.
Remarkable how much they've diverted to the south now. That's given Oscar a real advantage because he's already on the south side. And it's remarkable how he can push into the thermal and how he's pushed on. And we're not sure of his height. And here he is, 2,800 meters, and he's still cruising. He's found himself a really good route there.
He has, and he's got a good climb at 2,800 meters. He's a couple of 100 meters above the others, even though he's that little bit further to the left, downwind.
And Andy and Matthias and Simon are going straight down track. They're going to try and play the wind advantage game. They're not going to get blown down track. The wind's in the north, and we're looking sort of westerly at the moment, so the wind's coming from the right as you look at it now. And Simon and Andy will realize that if you can keep the wind advantage and you don't go downwind of track, then there won't come a part of the flight where you have to turn into wind to get to the turning point. That's a big diversion south for those guys who left that thermal. It's got to be pretty good to make it worth it.
We were seeing climb rates of 2 or 3 meters. Meanwhile, Simon's pushing on. Simon Schroeder is now 2,200 meters and just pulling up. Looks like he's taking a turn. Looks like a good thermal, 3 meters.
If they get a really good climb here, they'll have done very well staying out to the upwind side of the track. They'll get an advantage from that. A big climb would put them well ahead of that other group. And they've got the height. Look at Andy Davis's rate of climb. He's really going up there. Of course, a lot of that is pull-up. He'll probably settle at 2 to 3 meters.
Just watching that situation develop. Simon Schroeder on the top of the pile, Andy Davis underneath, and Matthias Stern with Andy. Jan's spotted it, and he's coming back to the right. Sebastian's not letting him get away, and he's following along. Meanwhile, Oscar ploughing his lonely furrow to the left.
Yeah, he's doing well. But it's classic that the whole group went from the north of track way off to the left, and now they're going to go to the right. And we can see that the Simon and Andy are just drifting back nicely onto track now. So the extra distance flown is quite expensive. It's a kilometre or two more than you need to fly. And in Grand Prix racing, that's a lot. It's a lot to get that back.
So we'll zoom out in a second and get an impression of how far they've got to travel down this, how much further they've got to travel down this 72-kilometre leg.
No real obvious move here except for Oscar. Oscar's the only person who seems to have got a clear plan. And his plan is obviously to fly out in front, but to try and avoid having the gaggle fly with him. Of course, as they get nearer to the turning point, he'll have to come back onto the track, and then they'll be able to see him, and at that point he'll be useful to them, and they'll be able to watch what he's doing.
So Oscar now highest and furthest out in front at 2,500 meters. And but further downwind, so he's got a little bit more. He's got a little bit more to do than the others.
Simon's got a good altitude in that climb. Sebastian didn't stop. Vladas has gone with him, but Jan's pushing on now. Jan's at 2,200 meters. He's doing okay. He's the same height as the gaggle way behind, so he's gained quite a few kilometers at the moment. Oscar's really, really roaring away here.
Just looking a bit further back down the field, looks like Carlos Rocca's not having a good day. It's not a good place to start his bid to come out the 0 Points Club at 1,900 meters.
No, Carlos is definitely having a hard time there. I think that these sort of conditions are really difficult for people like Carlos because he flies in the Andes. He flies in the mountains where you fly at high altitude. There's plenty of big mountain slopes to fly on. He comes to a place like South Africa, and the first thing he does when he comes off tow is looks for a mountain, and there isn't one.
There isn't any.
And then
Somebody
he
said
thinks, well, how do you stay up then?
So the pressure on these first 4 pilots must be enormous.
Yeah, it will be, but they're all very experienced. The top 4 pilots are very experienced. Christophe Abadé is probably the least experienced of the top 4 pilots, but I don't think he'll be feeling a lot of pressure because he's never won a world championship, and so for him it's his first time, so he's got it all to go for.
Yeah.
Holger, well, he's pretty cool. He's so pleased he won yesterday that he's feeling good about it, and I'm sure that he'll be in a fairly stable condition. He'll be cruising along. Sebastian, he'll be a little bit psyched. He hasn't won a world championship for more than 2 years, which for Sebastian's quite a long time. Maybe he's gone off the boil a bit, but he'll be really, really keen to prove himself today. And Oscar, well, Oscar's just going to fly as fast as he can, and if it works, he'll win, and if it doesn't, he won't.
Yeah, he doesn't know any other way, really, does he?
Yeah, Oscar doesn't do stress. Not for this game. Now we can see a very big difference in the distance, and Oscar's still got a good altitude. He's still 2,200 meters or something like that. He's 2,400.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's ahead. This is the way to fly a Grand Prix, is just to have a go, to be confident of your ability, confident that you've got the right tactic, and to push out there and try to get in front and keep in front. Of course, there is a risk attached to this.
Indeed, when we saw that risk yesterday, when Andy Davis got out 15, 20 kilometres in front and just couldn't get that killer climb he needed to get home. And the others just came rushing past.
But he was a bit unlucky.
Indeed, yeah.
But Andy's always lucky he gets the climb, but he was a bit unlucky he didn't get it a little sooner. If he'd got that climb just 5 kilometres before, I think he'd have been back pretty much the first.
Yes, yeah.
Because yesterday we had wave on the top of the cumulus, and today we have a similar situation with the wind. We have a very strong wind, we have overconvection, and I think there is just a chance that there'll be some wave again, but not in the area that they're flying at the moment. But if we see it blowing out, if we see some subsidence from the storm, then it could be that there's potential to climb in wave, although I don't think it'll be really useful for them today. I think Oscar's really cruising.
He certainly is, isn't he?
He's found really good energy.
Another good pull-up.
Still at 2,400, which is the same height as the large group that are staying together. I'm surprised they're not pulling up a little bit more. I'm surprised they're not coming back up to 2,700, 800, which is more or less what the cloud base should be there.
Jan finds himself out in front of this sort of chasing peloton, and Oscar in front a little further up the track, another 2 or 3 kilometres. I wonder if you can see him.
Difficult. Jan will be focused very much on his route now. He'll be looking at the clouds. He'll be trying to work out the best route through the sky. He'll be trying to pick out the cause for him to climb. and he doubt he'll be worried too much about who's ahead of him at the moment, because he knows the majority of people are behind him and they'll be coming in a moment. He's climbing reasonably well at the moment, and if he can get really caught in this one and get a really good climb, then they'll come in underneath him.
Meanwhile, Oscar's ploughing on in front. He's now got just under 40 kilometres to go. 2,160 metres. He could probably do with a bit of a top-up.
Yeah, I would have thought so. We know that the strategy of pushing on your own is the most exciting one. It's the most entertaining one. It gives us a really good race, but the risk is you miss one thermal at the sort of height that Oscar's at the moment, and then he's in a situation where he has to take the next thermal. Even if it isn't a really good thermal, he has to take it. And that, in order to avoid getting low, especially when it's windy like this, because we've got 25 knots of wind from the north, and that's making it very difficult. And Oscar knows that if he gets too low, it's really difficult to climb back up to 2,000 meters.
So the chasing pack have now caught up with Jan and Zulu. And just at the bottom of the pack there, we can see Christophe Abadé, who's managed to catch up quite a bit now. He's back to 2,100 meters, and with the main group, although he's still got 200 or 300 meters behind.
Yeah, he's catching them slowly, and the more that they try to stay together, the easier it'll be for him to catch them. John Coates is bravely struggling along at the back there in his lack. He'll be looking for wave again, I think, if he's
he has to do something different.
He has.
Unfortunately, that glider just doesn't have the same performance as the JS1.
Yeah, he's flying an old model, effectively. He doesn't have the benefit of some of the new technology, and bravely he's competing and trying to keep up with the others. But it must be slightly frustrating for him that he loses out in each glide. Matthias has found something here. He looks like he's got a good core, and Sebastian's coming in to join him. Looks maybe like quite a lot better than the core that the big group have got to the south of them. John's coming in underneath them.
Yeah, definitely the group on the right look like they're doing better than the group on the left.
And it looks like Freddie's coming in, but Christophe's back with them now. Christophe, of course, has to do well today. He's got to be in the top points to stay on the podium. There'll be at least two people trying to push him off, Sebastian and Oscar, and they won't want to give any quarter at all. They won't be waiting for anybody today. Oscar's obviously got the bit between his teeth, and he's going to try to get out ahead. We can see Oscar's got 3 meters a second, and he seems to be climbing really well. And we'll see what sort of altitude he pulls out of that thermal. That was just a pull-up. It's settling down a bit less than that, and he's carrying on. 2,500. He's come back up well. He was only 2-2 a moment ago.
Yeah. And we don't think he's stopped for a climb. He's just using the energy.
He's just cruising along. You see the wind now, blowing them off. If we look directly overhead that bench, we can probably see the way that they're drifting in the thermals, and it'll give us a good idea of the wind strength and direction. You can see the circles slowly moving down to the southwest. Is that north? Well, it's the north wind. It's the northwesterly wind. So if we were orientated north up, then we would be able to see the direction of drift more clearly.
Matthias has had enough and is leaving.
He's got a good altitude, 2,700. He's done very well there.
And so has Simon Schroeder.
But Matthias is a bit of an enigma, because on almost every day he's had a really good time on the flight. He's had one portion of the flight, one leg, where he's flown really well and he's got out in front. But on every day he's had a problem at some stage, and he's had a little bit of difficulty, and he's not recovered from it, and he's not been able to pull it back. It looks like he's decided that he's playing his own game again, which he did yesterday. Oscar's pulled his lead out now, and he's back up at the same height as the pack behind.
Oscar now with only 25 kilometres or so to run. They'll want to be high going around this turn point.
Yeah, fairly high. It's sort of more into wind, but it's crosswind. It's not absolutely into wind. I think the component is probably a little bit more into wind than the first leg was. And they'll have, well, maybe not, because lower down, below about 2,000 meters, the wind is northwesterly, and at higher altitude, the wind's more northerly. So at the sort of heights they're flying at, if there's 2,000 meters-ish, then they're going to be pretty much crosswind on this next leg.
Yeah. Sebastian staying in that climb longer than some of the others. He's up at 2,800 meters now,
This
climbing
is
between 3 and 2.5 meters.
Classic Sebastian tactics.
Yeah, wanting to be on top of the...
Absolutely classic. When they go, take a few more turns, especially if it still feels good, and then use his great skill and experience to work his way behind the gaggle. It takes the risk out of it. It gives him a much better flight. It removes a lot of the risk. He could adopt a tactic here that he expects the others to push on and make a mistake. But I come and see Holger for there is Holger back. He's right behind him. He's right behind that group, and he's in front of Sebastian. Sebastian might have just decided to stick with Holger and try and take him in the last 10 kilometers.
Holger going parallel to the track, and Sebastian actually coming northwest, back closer to the track line.
This is very strange tactic for Sebastian. Christoph's going with him. It's not very often he breaks away like this from the group. I wonder what he's seen. Matthias decided to go that way as well.
Indeed. Yeah. Meanwhile, Oscar's way out in front. Let's see if we can just get a relative picture.
And a distance to the turn might be interesting as they're coming along towards the end of this first leg.
Oscar got a hell of a climb, or a very, very big pull up there.
30 kilometers to go for Oscar. And he's 6 kilometers ahead of Simon and a good 8 kilometers ahead of most of them. So that's a big lead to take on the first leg. But we have a very interesting situation now, and all of the South African glider pilots will be hoping that Oscar can hold it. If he can hold that lead, then he's especially into the last turning point. Whoever takes the last turning point first will be home first.
Yeah.
This is a race to the last turning point to get round there as high as possible and round there first. And after that last turning point, it's just a straight glide home.
So Oscar pushing on. The rest of the group some 6 or 7 kilometers behind, led by Jan from Germany and Zulu Zulu. Jan now with 37.8 kilometers to go. Oscar with just under 30. Matthias, having gone right, is now running parallel with the task. But he's very high. He's up at 2,936 meters, so he must have got a climb that we didn't see. Olga Caro, 2,400 meters, with the rest of the group, with Mike Young there, Bostian and Luciano.
Interesting that Sebastian hasn't stopped out there, and Christoph. They've had to keep going. So whatever it was they saw hasn't materialized yet. It hasn't turned into a good decision yet. Maybe they need to just push on. It could be that there's a little bit of a cloud streak forming there, which they can run along and to get them up to back into some better condition. Peter Krajcek's not having a great day at the moment. We normally would see Peter really pushing on in this situation. He's a really good pilot when conditions are strong. He's very efficient in the way he flies, and he enjoys very much that very high energy, active sort of flying. Of course, Peter comes from Czech Republic, where they can have really great gliding weather in the summer. They have wonderful, wonderful conditions along their small mountain range in Czech Republic, and a lot of very good glider pilots. They're a really good gliding nation.
Is that the Tatra Mountains?
Yeah, they're on the border of Czech Republic and Slovakia, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you have Previtsa, which is in Slovakia, and then Nitra, which,
Yes,
if I'm
that's in
right, is in
Slovakia.
is in Slovakia. Yeah.
Yep.
And that area for flying is really, really good.
I've been there a couple of times actually.
Was it good?
It was great. Yeah, mind you, I didn't do any research when I first went there, and when I woke up the first morning and saw the mountains behind me, I thought, "Oh shit."
Have I come to the right place? Well, here Oscar's still keeping his lead. He seems to have quite a strong thermal. Of course, as the conditions develop and the clouds grow towards their storm status, there will be very strong lift from time to time underneath them. The inertia or the amount of energy in the thermal is almost directly related to how high it goes. So initially the thermals come up to the cloud base of 3,000 meters, the top of the cloud about 4,000 meters, and they're getting 3-meter climbs. When the tops of the clouds start to reach 5,000 or 6,000 meters, they'll be getting 4 and 5-meter climbs. But of course, they'll be further apart, and it will begin to overdevelop, and there might be a little bit of rain. But if they're lucky with the route and they use it well, the energy available will be enormous, but will it be in the right place?
Oscar's still ploughing on. Looks like he's found a very good run of energy there. It doesn't look like he's turning, but he's just slowing down and just running along. Meanwhile, quite a long way back now, Sebastian and Christoph look like they stopped and took one turn and then moved on.
And we've got a bit of a data hole here they're just going through at the moment. We're losing everybody here. Angel, can you do anything for us?
Oh, so just to recap.
Sorry?
So just to recap, we've had a fairly even start. The only one making any difference of a start was Oscar, who went off the downwind end of the line and managed to find himself a climb, and then ran a track quite a long way downwind to the first leg, whereas the rest of the group stayed either on track or to the right of the first leg, and he's managed to just keep it going, not stopping too often, just following the lines of energy, and he's popped out in front. And the last data we had showed him 7 kilometers out in front, not stopping and climbing very often, but just making his glider dance in the good pull-ups and things.
Yeah.
Just a little less turn here and there underneath the clouds, maintaining 2,800 meters now. So highest of nearly everybody. And we've got a bit of data back now.
Yeah, and we've Angel dived into his computer and found the data again and sent it back down the wire to us, which is great. The system we're using here for tracking is FLARM trackers. After some teething troubles, it's actually working really well. But we can expect from time to time to lose a little bit of data from some of the guys when they fly into areas where the coverage is not quite so good. But as you can see so far, it seems to be working very well, and we're touching wood here and keeping our fingers crossed that it carries on like that. So it's a distance to run to the turn now. Are they closing the gap on Oscar, or is he still pulling away? Yeah, he's only 3 kilometers ahead of Jan.
But he's a lot
higher.
higher.
But he's quite a lot higher.
Yeah.
So that probably translates into a similar sort of gap that he had before.
Yeah.
And we can see Oscar's 2,700, and most of the pack behind are down at 2.3. If we maybe watch what Ivo's up to down in, and put him on the bottom right, the comparison between the two could be quite interesting now.
Yes, Sebastian almost dropped back to make sure he covered Christoph. I'm not quite sure why he did that.
Well, I think Christoph decided he's going to cover Sebastian. I think Christoph might have decided that if he's going to be with Sebastian and he finishes with him, then Sebastian can't pass him because he's got 2 points more.
He
So-
has.
So even if Sebastian finished just in front of Christoph, he wouldn't beat him.
No, that sounds good.
So if he knows he's just got to stick with him, and that takes him out of the equation. He can't follow all three. So Holger Karo's with the other bunch, and he'll be aware that in his group he doesn't have Christoph, he doesn't have Oscar, and he doesn't have Sebastian. That may well start to put some pressure on him, wondering where they've got to.
So this main group sticking together, the only people who've made any kind of move that's different is Oscar, who's out in front, following a path that's further downwind than the others. Mike Young looks like he's struck out on his own, 2,300 metres, whereas Andy Davis in the pack is at 2,500 metres. So judging by the distance, it's about evens. What is really odd is Christoph and Sebastian having gone way, way right now. Both of them.
Yeah, we
following
could
a
be
completely
seeing.
different
Yeah,
line.
we could be seeing the beginnings of a little bit of overdevelopment, and they're going round the side of it. Seems to be a really strange tactic, though, when everybody else has chosen to go down track. That's a long way off.
The only advantage, though, is they are upwind.
They are upwind, but they're a long way off track now. So we'll have to see how this unfolds. There must be some sort of sense in what they're doing. Maybe they've got themselves on the wrong side of some overdeveloped area, and they chose a route which didn't work, and now they have been forced around it. And the main group of pilots are managing to squeeze around the backside. It's obviously possible to go straight through, because Oscar has done.
Yeah, maybe that's why these guys have stopped. Topping up,
Yeah, they could.
unsure of what's ahead.
Yeah, and if we look at the sort of height they're climbing up to now, see Andy Davis is on the top there with Holger Karo. That's where Holger will be happy to be up there. Sebastian's down to 2,200, and Holger's up at 2,600, along with Jean-Denis and Jan. Matthias is running in quite nicely, and he's 2,500, so they're going to get round the turn okay. I'm just trying to retrace what I said about the wind. Actually, the wind gets more westerly at altitude, not more northerly. So if they're getting a good altitude on this next leg, they should be getting a little bit of help from the wind, but not that much, but just a little bit.
Not on leg two.
No, not on leg two. Yeah, they should be at least they should be break evens with the wind, and maybe a little bit of tailwind. As we saw, the next time they climb, we'll have a look at the drift, and that'll give us a good idea of the wind at the heights that they're flying at.
Looks like Mike Young has got himself a climb, just climbing through 2,450 metres. Meanwhile, the rest of the group have pushed on. Peter Krychek leading that group away now. Matthias Stern out on his own, halfway between Oscar and the chasing pack, but a little bit further upwind. Meanwhile, Sebastian and Christoph look like they're climbing again. It's losing a bit of data.
Yeah, I should think they'll come back because we've got some antennas down there, which should bring us the data back. Mr. Angel. We have a plan, of course, to now we've developed this presentation system that for the next series of Sailplane Grand Prix, and certainly for the final, we're planning to have a different antenna arrangement for the gliders, and we shall put the antennas for the FLAM on the trackers on the bottom of the glider. Because at the moment we lose the data from individual gliders when the antenna is shielded from the receiver because of the carbon fiber of the glider. So if they're inside the glider, the carbon fiber body prevents the antenna being seen by the receiver, and that gives us a problem with trying to get the data.
So while we wait for the data to come back, it's probably worth mentioning the people that have helped us be here. Land Rover and the Daily Group have been fantastic a sponsor of the event, as has Sebastian at SD Aviation, who's a French taxi firm, air taxi firm. Sebastian spends quite a bit of time flying here in South Africa, and we've seen him down at Bloem, and I think he's also been to Douglas. LX Nav put up first prize, which is one of the new Nano 4s, which looks like a very sexy piece of kit. We also have Yonkers Sailplanes, who are based here at Potchefstroom. They've been very instrumental in providing quite a lot of the ground staff and the technical staff to help us put this event together. Gave us a very interesting factory tour the other night, and we got a sneak preview of the new JS3.
What's a JS3, Sean?
What's a JS3? It's a 15 and 18 metre glider by the look of it.
So it's you could buy it in a 15-metre version with wingtips to take it to the
18 metres, yeah.
And are they suggesting that they'll get the same performance out the 18-metre version as an all 18-metre glider?
I think they're suggesting that they might get 2 or 3% better performance.
Wow, that'll be something else.
Mm.
That will be something else.
And very hard on trying to reduce the drag.
Of course, it's interesting why they should do that, because the 50-metre class isn't so popular now. And it would become popular again, I'm sure, if there was a really good 15, 18-metre glider. Our data keeps coming and going, and Angel's working on it. Maybe we can find out if the problem's local or it's outside our control.
And just to mention our last sponsor, Old Mutual Wealth. They're sponsoring tonight's activities. So I understand it's dinner jacket and shorts this evening.
That's right. We're in South African dinner dress tonight, which is khaki shirts, khaki shorts, and walking boots, and probably a big umbrella. The forecast here is that from 3 o'clock onwards, it's probably going to rain a lot. And we're hoping it holds off until 4 o'clock, and everybody's home and back in the hangar, so that we don't have the problem we had yesterday with a hailstorm on the airfield whilst we were trying to set the grid up in the morning. Well, this is the first time we've had a really big data problem, and I'm not sure what the problem is, but I think they're working on getting it back for us. So we just have to be a little bit patient and see what happens.
It's always on the last day, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, we're just going to need to restart the screen, and hopefully we'll get the data back. So the screen's going to go blue for a second, but please bear with us.
It seems that
reloading it now.
We've got one of these computer glitches, which comes to bug you, especially on the last day.
Yep.
But it won't take long. Benji's on the case. Angle's pushing him along. So between them, they'll get the data back in a moment or two.
So there's the view of the world.
Now we can see them coming round the world and heading back into the task area. It's a long way around the world to get this data, isn't it?
It's gone dark, Brian.
Maybe they're going through the night time here. Sun's coming up.
We need a picture of Oscar. Now we just need to know where Oscar is.
Yeah, so now we're back in the race again.
Oscar, 2,800 meters. Just need to just have a picture of where he actually is. So yeah, hasn't quite gone around the turn yet. 2,800 meters and pushing on towards the turn point.
Average speed looks really low.
Very low, 46 kilometers an hour.
That's not good.
We're just getting an overall picture of where everybody is.
He's very high though, Oscar, so he's got the altitude to take the turn.
Yeah, 2,900 meters now.
Yeah, he's got the altitude to take the turn. Everybody's got quite high now. Christoph is up to 3,000, and we can see Christoph and Sebastian are now coming back down the same line the others were. I think they've gone round the side of a little bit of overdevelopment there. And got a really good climb.
Christoph got the jump on Sebastian though. He's 300 meters higher.
Yeah. Well, that was very good of him. That was very clever.
I wonder what's going on up there. How did he manage to do that?
I don't know. Well, I would think that if Sebastian took just one wrong turn the wrong way under the cloud and Christoph turned right into it, they've only got to do that for a couple of turns, and then Sebastian would have seen his climbing better. And of course, it's always difficult to get into the core when somebody else has really caught into it. I don't believe the speed at the bottom, because we're seeing Jan's got 76, but Oscar's only got 46. So that can't be right. I think it's because the data's now been corrupted, so we shouldn't worry too much about that. His first leg is how long, Sean?
It's 80 kilometres.
Yeah, so it's a good part of the task.
Sorry, 72 kilometres, and the next one is 88 kilometres.
So the ground speeds we're seeing in 96, 83, 100 kilometres. They've actually looked to be flying into wind. They look at the moment as if they're going into wind, in which case, if the wind has become more westerly, the next leg should be pretty quick. Their average speed should shoot up on the next leg. Yeah, the average speed now has gone down to 5 kilometres an hour. So I think it's because we've had to restart and we've lost the initial data of the start.
So just to recap.
Closing up a bit on Oscar, do you think?
Oscar, well, he's got the altitude advantage, and certainly 3 or 4 kilometres ahead.
3,000 metres now. It's pretty clear from the way in which they've tried to get very high that they're going to have to do something, like fly through the edge of a bit of overdevelopment or a little shower there.
Oscar doing very well, now nearly 3,200 metres. He wants to be high before he goes around this turn.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's not too difficult to get there. He's flying straight at 2.5, 2.7 metres a second of lift. Flying really slowly into wind and climbing as he's going. That's great. That's 3,200 metres.
I think he must be turning.
It's looking like that, isn't it? It's looking like he's not really going anywhere at the moment.
Meanwhile, this group with Holger Caro, Jean Denis and Bostian just to the upwind side of the track, heading in towards the turn point.
And we've seen Peter Krajcek coming up front. He's been playing a canny game. He's worked his way up from the back into the lead there. Him and Bostian, they're going really well. And we can see that Christophe Abadet's come right up, 2,900, and Sebastian's with him. Christophe seems to be flying really well this week. He's a very good pilot, very talented pilot, but in a lot of the competitions, he doesn't have a good day every day. And the days it's not so good usually knocks him back quite a long way in the overall positions.
So with this Sailplane Grand Prix racing, you've either got to win a few races or you've got to be very consistent.
That's right. And I think that he realises that actually you can afford to be quite aggressive, because on a day when you don't do so well, you can pull it back. And so on a balance, it works better than a conventional sailplane racing, which is very much more a percentage game. Everybody's really high now. The altitude is obviously important to them. Nobody wants to push on. They're going to take the turn quite high at 2,600, something like that. Oscar probably even higher. He's only a little distance to go to the turn now.
If the wind has done what you thought it was going to do and turned westerly, actually this makes this an upwind turning point, so really you don't need that extra altitude. So what's going on?
Well, there might not be much lift there. It could be overdeveloped, and in which case you've got to take it where you find it, because if you take the turning point lower and when you turn downwind and it's too far to the next lift, then you really overcooked it and you don't get to climb back up again. So they will have, Oscar will certainly have worked it out, that with his good rate of climb he's got there, he'll get into the turn and we'll be able to see if they come back the same way. If they come back out of the turning point the same way, then there's something happening on the second leg. If they go much more to the north, then they're going to go round whatever's happening. because we can't actually see it from here, but it becomes more obvious on the track, and we should become much more obvious when he goes around the turn.
Well, Ryan's going to go and have a look at the weather outside and give us a bit more of an insight on what's happening down track as we see Oscar coming into the first turn with a fairly healthy lead of 4 or 5 kilometres. Oscar going through just over 3,000 metres. Next down the track is Holger Caro, followed by Jean Denis from France, Holger from Germany. Holger currently leading with 30 points overall. Oscar with 25 points in 4th. And Jean Denis quite a lot further back down. He's 9th place with 10 points. So he's racing for French pride, really. So Oscar round now, and the others chasing hard. Holger hasn't got quite the same altitude that Oscar had, and just off his wing tip is Jean Denis. In fact, I think they might even have stopped to have another climb. So Oscar now very clearly going upwind of that the next leg. So it looks like they're going round something.
Yeah, it looks from here, we have very good cumulus out to the north. It looks fine, but we can't see quite as far up as the first turning point. And if we can imagine that in that area there, there might just be a little bit of overdevelopment and they need to work around it. But watch Oscar's ground speed as he comes out.
We just change.
So we just. So we can see out there that there's good cumulus all the way out. We've got good cumulus as far as we can see, but we can't see quite that far. And I suspect that it's just a little bit of overdevelopment. It doesn't look serious. I'm fairly sure now that when we're coming out of the turn, that they're going to come back into the good weather. We can see Oscar's ground speed now.
Yeah, he's got quite a tailwind component,
It
so the wind
looks
must
like
have
the
gone
wind
west.
is more westerly at that altitude. Certainly up at 3,000 metres, they should be picking up more of a westerly wind.
Yep. Another great pull-up from Oscar there. We saw 4 or 5 metres and then pushing on over the top.
Yeah. That northerly component that we had lower down and locally here seems to be turning a little bit more westerly, which is a big advantage for them. How long's the last leg, Sean?
This one's 88 kilometres, but it's not the last leg, it's second leg. The last leg back towards the checkpoint here is 36 kilometres.
Plus 8, so they've got 42 kilometres from the turning point, which is about 2,700 metres at the turn, 2,600. So if they can take that turn high, they're home. So we're on for a race to the next turn. And Oscar's he's not hanging back. He's giving it absolute wacko now. He's got his foot to the floor and he said, right, you boys, this is how you fly in Africa.
And this group that he's coming up to, we'll be able to see him coming the other way. So
yeah, and Holger Back, currently our competition leader, looks like he's going to be the second round the turning point. Sorry, Holger Caro. I keep saying Holger Back because... Yeah, Holger is back, yeah, because Holger Back was another great German glider pilot who came second to me in Benalla. So all Holgers to me are Holger Back. Yeah.
Right. Okay, and through the turn looks like Andy Davis, Holger Caro and Jan Olmsels from Germany. Jean Denis still on his way to the turn point, as is Mike Young and Peter Krajcek.
It's looking a bit grim for Sebastian at the moment. If he's... we got data for Sebastian? No, we haven't got data, so he could be there with them. We'll see when his data comes back up.
We haven't got Christoph either. Christoph Abaday. Work out where he is.
Christoph...
they're way back down the track.
What's going on there? And Simon Schroeder's way back as well. So they've really made a mistake going to the north of track there when they're on that first leg. And they've really overcooked that because they've got a lot of catching up to do now and not a long time to do it. Jean Denis and Andy will work well together, and Jan Holger, that's a really good group. That's a good group of excellent pilots. They'll work well together. Andy will be trying to prove something here. He nearly did it yesterday, and he'll be out to try and do it today.
I just saw before the screen changed that Oscar has pulled up wind of the track line. It looks like he was going for a climb. Yeah, heading now almost perpendicular to the track line. Good lift where he is, slowing down. Looks like he might be going into a turn. 2,800 meters. So if he can top it up to 3.233 or something, he's home.
It's almost like he's flying in a different day. It's almost like he's flying on a different day to the other guys.
Yeah, in fact, he is turning now, settling with a thermal there at between 2 and 3 meters. Just
Well, I'm amazed. Yesterday we saw Andy Davis pull ahead by 10 or 15 kilometers by just doing something different. And eventually he suffered a little bit from this because it's blue. Oscar's pulled ahead 10 or 15 kilometers, but it's very unlikely he's going to suffer from it now because he's got cumulus. So he doesn't have such a big risk, and he's got quite a buffer. So whoever wants to catch Oscar now is going to have to do something really very special, or Oscar's going to have to make a very big mistake.
In fact, the pilot that's probably got the most to gain here is Holger Caro, who's currently third. We can see, but he's got this advantage of 2 points over Christophe Aberdet and Sebastian, and points difference of 5 over Oscar. So if he can just narrow that gap down and maybe, well, actually finishing third, he'll still beat Oscar.
That's right. He needs to finish third or better, and he's doing pretty good at the moment. It's difficult to see which one in that group is going to break out. We're looking at the battle here for second and third place amongst this group, and Jean-Denis, Peter Krajcek are going to work together on this leg. Christoph's still on his way in. We don't see what heights they are, Benj. Maybe we can just check that out.
Christophe, 2,700 meters.
Yep. On the big board.
Peter Krajcek, 2,700 meters.
Oscar, 3,200 meters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's nearly there. 3,300, we think, and he can get home from there.
Yeah. And we can imagine that Christophe and Sebastian are probably close together, and poor Carlos is struggling along there somewhere at 1,600 meters. He's not having a great day.
No.
I would think for Carlos at that sort of height, it's probably game over. He's not going to be in the points. He's well behind. Might be the honourable thing for Carlos to do would be to climb up and have a little sightseeing tour on his way home. There's no good carrying on when you've got a puncture.
This is true. This is true. So we just saw that Matthias Stern's glider popped up in front of Andy Davis and Holger Caro. So it's possible that he was flying very well earlier on, that he might have just snuck through there and be in second place.
Well, it puts a bit of pressure on Holger Caro if Andy Davis and Matthias are together there. Jan hasn't had a podium, I think. Jan had a podium this week?
No podiums for Jan.
It would make Jan's week to be on the podium. And which way is Simon? Simon's with them. Simon's going along with them now. So the bit of data that we really would like to see is Sebastian. And at the moment we don't have him, but I'm sure that he'll come back. I'm sure that he'll come back up in a few moments and we can see if he's with them.
Out in front with 67 kilometres to go to the next turn point is Oscar. Andy Davis is 7 kilometres behind. with Holger Caro, Jan Omsel and Simon Schroeder. And we think Matthias is in there somewhere as well.
Yeah, and we think Oscar is quite a lot higher than the others. If we compare the altitudes, now we've seen the distances. Because Vladas is only 2.5. So if we can look at the altimeters and see what's happening there.
Yeah, Oscar 2,900 meters now.
Yeah, and that group, Christoph is behind quite a bit, but Andy's 2.5. That's 400 meters below Oscar, which is almost 5 kilometers. It's 4 to 5 kilometers in distance.
Be great to see where Oscar is in relation to this group.
Now Sierra Juliet, he's not having a great day now, Vladas.
That's
I'm not
Vladas,
sure which way he's going.
I
Is
think
he
he's still
coming
going to the
turn?
first turn
Yeah.
point, yeah.
He's struggling a little bit. Carlos seems to be climbing up now, so he'll be happy to climb up. But he might get a little bit depressed when he sees the other guys going the other way. Tactically, Oscar's playing a blinder. He's playing an absolute blinder. He's got out in front and he's keeping his foot down. We'll see him, I'm sure, just take it off a little bit on the last leg in order to stay high. But he's still got 40 k's to go to get to 40 k's or 50 k's to go to that turning point.
It looked like 40 kilometers earlier.
Yeah.
And from there, they have 46 kilometers from the next turn to get to the finish. And total distance to run, 104 kilometers now.
And we can just zoom in on the climb with Andy Davis and co and the main pack, and we might get some indication of what the wind's doing. If we see the drift in the thermal, we'll get a really clear indication of whether or not they're drifting very quickly.
Yeah, there's definitely a drift left to right here.
It looks like the wind's west-northwesterly. So it's sort of crosswind on this leg, but a little bit, maybe a little bit of tailwind, but definitely a tailwind on the next leg. Once they're round the next turn, it's definitely a tailwind coming home.
So two groups coming down this second leg with Oscar out in front. On the right-hand side, we've got Mike Young, Andy Davis, and Simon Schroeder. Who else we got there? November 2. That's Philip Depeschi. And the group to the left, which Peter Krychek is just leaving, has got Christophe Abadé, Jean Denis, and Bostian. And we think that Sebastian will be in there somewhere.
Wow, Andy Davis has climbed up really high this time. And the little group, Jan, Andy, and they've got a very good climb up there. Matthias is a little bit lower, but he's on the way there with them. Simon and Mike, Holger Caro, Philippe Depesche with them. That's really good. And Andy. So they've done very well there, but they've come quite a way downwind of track. Whereas we can see that Christophe and Jean Denis are steering a little bit to the left, a little bit to the north of track.
And Matthias has popped up again, just behind Oscar.
Matthias has done really well.
He's done fantastically well.
He's done really well. He's been pushing along there. We could be confident that one day it would all work out for Matthias. He'll join up all the dots, and it'll flow for him.
Today could be that day.
Maybe today's that day. And if he stays in that sort of position, that puts even more pressure on Holger's position.
Yeah. And we've lost Holger at the moment. We can't see his tracker.
We're pretty confident that he's with that group that were Jan and Mike and Andy Davis. Matthias is going really well. And he's not too bad, the altitude, 2,600. He's pulled ahead. Oscar's, third of the way, coming up to halfway down the track. We're looking at nearly halfway around the flight effectively. and they've been flying now for 1 hour 5 minutes.
Yep, something like that.
So they're going to be
Yeah, 100 kph.
around about 2 hours. Yeah, around about 2 hours. So we should see them finishing at about 14:40 South African time. May seem early for the European glider pilots watching, but of course the sun comes up here at 5 in the morning and goes down at 7. So everything happens a little bit earlier. Everything happens that little bit earlier in the day. So the best part of the day between 11 o'clock and 4:30, whereas you're more accustomed in European summer to the best part of the day being between 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock, 1 o'clock and 6 o'clock, something like that. They have shorter days but much more power in the sun. Because the length of day doesn't change very much summer to winter here, only by an hour or so. At this latitude, the summers are wet and the winters are dry.
So Oscar pushing on, Matthias close behind now, and then the next group, the group to the right of track with Jan and Andy Davis and Mike Young, and to the left we've got Peter Krychek, Christophe Abadet and Jean Denis, and we're pretty sure that Sebastian will be in there with Christophe Abadet.
Let's see what Rennie thinks to the race and see how he thinks it's progressing.
So any problems from your perspective, René, on the scoring and
No problem.
no referee problems here?
Not at all. I'm doing nothing. If I'm doing nothing, because everything is right.
No, it's good. It's good. Well,
No.
that means that the rules have developed and they're mature now.
Exactly. Yeah, we always have to review the rules, make some changes, adjustment if required. But so far, I think they are working pretty well. It's only a small percentage of things that can be fixed, but the majority is done.
Holger Caro's just appeared on our screen. Doesn't look like he made the best of that climb with the others. So although no, actually, sorry, it's 2,140 meters. So he's a little higher than Andy Davis and Mike Young, who are down at 2.8 and 2.5 respectively. He's pushing on now to try and catch him up.
So Rennie, how do you think Carlos is going to be feeling?
Well, not really happy, but I think he will try to climb and maybe come back. I don't think he's gonna continue the task. He's far away, far behind. So, I mean, he's having a good time, but no results. Okay, and yesterday he outlanded, and it was quite an experience. Very windy, showers, and took a long time to come back. 11:30, and a little bit confused about the CG of the glider. He's trying to change 1 kilo, 1 liter less, 1 liter more every day because he feels it's not climbing well. But I don't know. It's also the thing that he flies mountain and not flatlands could be an extra.
Yeah, he's looking forward to the qualifier in Chile and then the final next year in January.
Exactly. Exactly, that's correct.
He came second when the last final was held in Chile.
Exactly. First was Sebastian, second was Carlos, and third was Super Mario.
Super Mario, yes. Yeah.
Very well known Super Mario. I'm extremely surprised how the guys take the energy in the flatlands. It's really impressive, the speed they make here, and it's something we are far away to that kind of techniques. I mean, you can see Oscar, and it's unbelievable.
Mind you take Oscar out of South Africa and put him in Chile.
Well, maybe at the beginning he won't perform because he needs the tricks, but as soon as he gets the tricks, and he also has a great glider, so he can be in the first third for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So I hope we see him in Chile, because there will be a
great to see
South
him
African qualifying, and as I can see, he's one of the favorites. So for sure he'll be in the high mountains.
We've now got Sebastian's tracker back, Evo. We can see him middle left of the track, and he's with Jean Denis and Christophe Abadet, the two of them following along. But he's very low at 2,396 meters, where Christophe Abadet 2,800 meters, so 500 meters in front. So Christophe, as we see it at the moment, Christophe will beat Sebastian. Oscar, if he stays where he is and gets 11 points, it's all about where Holger Caro comes. All still to play for in the overalls. Talking to Oscar on the grid, he was definitely keen, very, very fired up, wanted to have a good racing day. Even if the weather wasn't going to behave, he was going to have a good racing day, whatever. Just going to look for an overhead shot to get the relative positions. And there we go. Oscar upwind, high, and to the left of track, upwind, and closest to the turn point. Matthias, just looking at his distance, 46 kilometers, 6 kilometers behind Oscar. And then the chasing group of Andy Davis at 52 kilometers to go.
So they're nearly 20 kilometers behind Oscar. And Oscar's still got a good altitude. Well, he's not so high now. He's 2,400, but he's still flying fast. He's still flying at 200, 180 kilometers an hour, pulling up there. He heard us, so he's pulling back in some lift, and he's probably stopping do a turn there to top up. But if he's still flying at those speeds, he's not worried. He's not. If he starts to be worried about what's happening ahead, he'll be slowing down. Surprising that Sebastian isn't putting up a better fight of it today. He seems to be struggling a little bit at the back there. He's never really got into gear, has he?
No, he certainly wasn't keeping an eye on Oscar. He's marking Christophe, but he's lost 300 or 400 meters now, so it's going to be very, very difficult for him to catch Christophe.
Yeah. And Christophe is taking a different line to everybody else. He's coming out to the left. Let's see if this is Christophe's day when he screws his overall result. We hope that he can maintain his result and if he can come along with the leaders, but he's got a lot to do. Right now, he's out the points, and so Sebastian. There, Luciano will be feeling pleased with himself, flying with Sebastian, because he's not been having a great week.
Well, Luciano, he's out of the 0 points club. He's got 9 points. He's quietly been just getting on with it.
Yeah.
10th place overall at the moment.
And for a mountain pilot, he's doing okay. He's struggled a little bit on the really difficult day when he had the problem. And of course, he missed the day when he had the problem with his air brake, and he missed that day altogether. But he's flying okay today, and he'll be happy to be in good company.
So
Mike and Andy are getting close together. If they come together, then they know how to cooperate. But I think this whole group's cooperating. Holger, Mike, Andy, they can see Matthias ahead. Matthias may well just be able to see Oscar now and see what he's got to do to catch him up. Of course, Matthias, like Oscar, will know that being round the next turning point is a really, really important part of the flight. Round that next turning point at a good altitude will make a very big difference, because the last leg downwind, it's not very long. A high altitude at the next turning point, and it's game over, really. It's just a race to that turning point.
So Oscar now with just under 25 kilometers to go. Matthias 37 kilometers to go. So 12 kilometers behind. So Oscar's got one hell of a lead now.
And I think that Oscar's got not so much altitude. Well, no, Matthias is catching him up. Matthias is almost certainly catching him up, because he's got 400 meters more, and he's only 10 kilometers. Oh, he's not catching him. He's closed the gap. He's certainly closed the gap, but he's got a long way to go to catch him up. Oscar, if Oscar climbs next time, he'll probably be leaving before Matthias arrives at the thermal. Matthias is quite high now, 2.9. Oscar's still going fast enough to make you think that he's feeling very confident. He's only 1,000 meters above the ground now. He's heading into that territory where you start to think, we really need to climb up. Not because it's a risk, but because to maintain the speed, to keep his achieved speed up. You go much faster if you stay higher.
Just slowly keeping a careful eye on these guys. Oscar's still pushing on. 2,200 meters. Let's hope he doesn't make the same mistake as Andy did yesterday, getting out on his own and low.
And very fast still, 200 kilometers, 230 kilometers an hour. That's really blistering along. He's feeling good about it. Whatever he's doing, he's feeling good about it.
Yeah, maybe he's seen something we haven't seen.
Yeah, there is good cumulus out there. And Oscar is familiar enough with the type of flying here to know that one of those clouds is going to pull him really well. And maybe this is the one. Maybe he's pulling up in this one now and it's going to be the one he climbs in. Simon's done well. Simon caught up well. He didn't do so well on that first leg, but he's catching up well now, and he's up there with the leaders of the group that are in basically third place. A good fight there for third place at the moment.
Looks like Andy might have put a turn in there, and Mike's pushed on. Holger Caro's pushed on. So's Jan.
They've got a really good altitude now, though. They've climbed up really high. Maybe we just compare all the altitudes down the right side bench, and we can see if the rest of that group are up there with him. Yeah, Andy's really pulled it back, really pulled it up there. Zulu Bravo, the Zulu Bravo's with him.
That's Mike.
That's Mike, but he's quite a lot lower.
Yeah, we're just looking at a picture of the weather out to the west, and it looks like very good cumulus with some streeting.
Oscar's still not climbed. He's at 2,100 meters now, but he's pushing on hard still. And he's flying at 240 kilometers an hour now, so he's going to try to catch Oscar and Matthias. He's going to try to use that altitude to close that gap. Oscar's doing okay. He's been between 2,100 and 2,300 for quite a while now. He's been able to creep along there. And flying at these sort of speeds, he must be flying through some quite good energy from time to time.
He's got a good bounce there, just up to 3 meters. Don't think he's stopped and just pushing on through.
Well, on paper, they should take the next turning point lower. They should run into it and then climb. But of course, that's fine on paper. In principle, in theory, that's what you should do. But the sky might tell you to do something different.
Just trying to see where Sebastian's got to. Christophe Abadé further upwind. Sebastian now is further to the right, downwind and lower.
Sebastian's climbed up a bit now. So, and Christophe's still running.
It looks like Sebastian's going to be out of the points.
At the moment, it looks like they're both out of the points. At the moment, it looks like our current second and third places are out of the points, but they should, Christophe should be able to hang on to a podium position unless Andy gets up in one of the top two or three places.
Yeah, with that little extra bit of altitude that he's got, he may be able to do something with that.
But currently, even though he's higher than the group he's flying with, he's still got Matthias and Oscar in front of him. If he can creep to the front of that group by the time the next turning point comes, it'll be quite interesting to see if he can stay in front of them on the last leg, on the downwind leg coming home.
Oscar now 16 kilometres to go. Matthias 21 kilometres, so 5 kilometres behind.
Oscar's taken quite a detour. He's taken quite a big deviation to the right of track to the south of track. Wonder what he's thinking now. Is he taking a detour to climb, or is he taking a detour to go round and follow an energy line into the turning point? Because Matthias has made a completely different decision.
Matthias going a little bit further upwind, 2,600 meters, where Oscar's 2,200 meters.
Oscar's higher than he was a few moments ago. So he's still going okay, and he's still boring along. We can see that his speed is still 150 kilometers an hour, and yet he's not really coming down. He's been at that sort of height for quite a long time now.
Oscar coming back to the left now.
Yeah, he made a detour under a cloud, and he decided it wasn't strong enough. He pulled up and slowed down under that cloud, and he thought, no, this is only 3 meters. I've got to keep going. I've got to keep ahead. It doesn't matter that much for Oscar if Matthias is there at the end, unless, of course, Christoph and Holger are in the points. Then it does matter. Oscar really needs to win this to get the bonus points, to be ahead. Looks like the wheels are coming off just a little bit for Oscar here. His last couple of attempts haven't worked out that well, but we can see each pull-up is going back up 200-300 meters, so back to 2-3 in that one pull-up. So he's pulling up 200 meters each time, and that means there's a lot of energy available.
Indeed. So the gap closing now. Matthias hunting Oscar down, a little bit higher, a little bit further upwind. The chasing pack being led by Mike Young, who's just under 2,200 meters, with the group behind him 200 or 300 meters higher.
And Andy was sitting on top of that, 2,800. Philippe Depeche is doing really well. Philippe's up at 2,900 in that same gaggle. So he's back a little bit. He obviously stopped to climb a little bit higher. We could see his ticker before. And Peter Krajcek and Christoph Abade hanging out at the back there. They're struggling a little bit back there.
So we're really looking now to see whether Oscar can find a climb.
We should keep our eye on the Matthias and Oscar scenario at the bottom and just see, watch what happens to them, because Matthias could just catch Oscar here. And if he's flying well enough to catch him, and he continues to fly like that, he could just pull ahead. There's almost the same distance from the turning point, and they're almost the same height. There's 100 meters, which is nothing on a day like this. So Matthias is really, really flying well today. He was looking a little bit unhappy last night. He was feeling a little bit disappointed at his performance the last few days. He felt he could be doing better. He knew that he had good parts to his flying, but each day something had happened and it had gone wrong for him. And I think that today he'll probably be really trying hard to knit it all together to make it work right to the end.
Oscar just throwing in a turn. First part of it didn't look very strong, but now starting to strengthen. 3 meters at the moment. Matthias still ploughing on.
Is Matthias going for the turn? Is he taking the real risk? Is he going to take that turn and then climb? He's only got 8 kilometers to go to the turn. That's nothing. Although, can we be fairly certain this data's good for the distance to the turn bench? Yeah. So he's able to take the turn now if he wants to, without climbing. And look at the circles that Oscar's taking. He's drifting exactly down the next leg. And he's not climbing that well, so he's going to have to go. He's going to have to go and take the turn. And they're still the same height, and Matthias has gained 3 kilometers on him in those few circles.
Andy Davis now 2,700 meters, 400 meters above Oscar. Can probably see Oscar climbing. In fact, he looks like he's turned and is now steering straight towards Oscar. But it's not a great climb. Matthias still ploughing on.
So that's good. So we're seeing Matthias not flying as fast as Oscar was. He's flying a little bit slower, and he's maintaining his altitude really well. He's chosen a good energy line. Oscar's doesn't seem to be climbing at all here, but he's still going around. But he must be leaving any minute. He can't stay there. Not at all obvious what's going through Oscar's mind at the moment. He's not really climbing and he's circling. This is most unlike him for the flying he's done so far. Very positive and very determined, and suddenly he seems to be a little bit less confident and wanting to get the altitude.
Meanwhile, Matthias carries on. Looks like he will take the turn first. Only 3 kilometres to run. And then he'll be looking for a climb once he's got round, drifting down with the wind.
And if we look at the altitudes again, Benj, we'll see Andy's altitude and the others coming in, Holger's.
Matthias now 9 kilometres in front.
Oscar's climb wasn't good, and Andy's coming in at the same height, a little bit higher.
200 metres higher,
Yeah.
and I think he's going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I think Oscar's going to struggle a bit now. He's with this group. They've come together. This group have done really well. Oscar's few turns there have cost him dearly in that little deviation of track. Matthias is taking the turn, but only 1,000 metres above the ground. He's now got to find a climb when he comes on the downwind leg. One climb for Matthias, and I think we're going to see him having his first really big day.
Yeah, this is almost a repeat of yesterday, where we saw Andy Davis 15 kilometres out in front, and then just get swallowed up by the chasing group.
Yeah. Well, he's coming. It's slightly different because he's coming more or less downwind, and he's not high, but he's not really low. And if there's cumulus and reasonable thermals, he should have something to aim for. Of course, he won't know where everybody else is now because they'll have been behind him. So unless he's really good at using his FLARM radar, Andy's decided to go straight on.
Yeah,
he's overtaken Oscar now. He's higher and he's gone on towards the turning point.
Looking at our Ready Reckoner goal arrival height, Andy Davis is 450 metres he needs to climb. But this is worked on 30 to 1, so if he can get round the turn point and just drift downwind, it's quite possible he could make at least half of that up.
Yeah. He only needs Oscar's going to take this right up by the look of it. I think Oscar might have decided that this could be the climb. If we can look at Oscar's details again, Benj, and we can see whether he's still climbing or not. 2.4, 2.8. He's maybe he's decided that this one is going to be good enough to take them round the turn and on the way home. So it's not over. They're still all close together. Can we put Matthias on the bottom as well and see what happens when he stops to climb? If we can put Matthias on the bottom, because this turning point being into wind, Sean, they can take it a bit lower, you think?
Well, yeah, you want to get round and look for a climb downwind. The only thing that would be different is if there's nothing in the sky on that leg, and we've already seen pictures from outside that show there's good cumulus. So why wouldn't you go around the turn and then look for something downwind?
We're looking at Matthias's vario there. If you believe that, he's really aced it. So it's 4 meters a second, and he's coming up well. If he really has got a climb that strong, then Matthias is going to have no problem getting home first. But we'll see if it takes him all the way up.
It's still looking strong, isn't it?
It's still looking strong. Oscar's in a good position, but he's lost his leading position. He's lost those bonus points, which would make such a big difference to his day.
If you're wondering whether Matthias can do anything from there, even if he wins, currently he only has 3 points. With 11 points, that would actually just bring him up halfway in the field. So it'll be a great win for him, but won't do anything in the overalls.
No. And Oscar's going to be able to run in now with the other guys, and we can see Matthias at 2,500 meter. He's only needs another 140 meters for the glide. He's almost on glide now, and he's cruising along. He's just with a little bit of wind behind him now. He may well be on glide, I would think. We should see our ticker ticking down if it's downwind, as the distance counts down quicker than the computer set for, because it's set for 1 in 30. Of course, it can't take into account the wind, and if the wind is behind them, we can see he's coming up all the time onto glide. Oscar should have been there with him. He shouldn't have gone off to the right and taken those turns, but it's easy to say that. It's very easy to see a mistake from sitting here in the comfort of the control room. It's much more difficult when you're sitting in the gliders trying to work out which cloud to go for.
So Matthias Stern first round the turn and on glide to finish first. And it looks like Andy Davis is going to take the penultimate turn in second place, followed by Oscar, then Jan and Holger Caro. With Holger in this position, 2,470 meters, just a little bit below Oscar and Jan. If he can bump it up, that should mean that Holger would win.
Yeah, Holger's in a very good position now, because all the people in front of him are out of reach of him with points. If they finish in this order, and it's not going to change a hell of a lot, then Holger's going to be our new champion. But it looks like Oscar can get himself on the podium. Christophe Abadé and Sebastian are going to drop down. Can Andy manage it? Depends how many people there are in between. If Andy can be second home, he could be third, and Oscar could be second at this rate.
Very interesting. So what has Sebastian done with Christophe? Has he marked the wrong man?
Well, did they get into a situation where they decided to stay with each other, and they've taken their eye off the ball, and whilst they've been watching each other carefully and staying together, everybody else has roared on, because at the moment we've got 8 in front of them, potentially 8 finishes before them, and that would put Holger in first place. Well, show Sean the...
Yeah, with the results as we think they are at the moment, Holger Caro would end up with 35 points, Oscar with 32, and Andy Davis with 29, if they finish in the order they're on at the moment.
So it's touch and go for Christophe Abadé, because he needs to get another place. He needs to get into the points in order to save him a position on the podium. If he won't know this, of course, but he needs to get home before Philippe to Pesci. And there is a chance he'll do that, because Philippe is still climbing there.
Philippe at 2,600 meters and Christophe at 2,700 meters, but Christophe a little bit further behind, but upwind. So it's very, very close. Simon Schroeder, they're 2,200 meters, and I think Mike is roughly the same sort of altitude. Sorry, Mike's a little higher, 2,300 meters. So Christophe could overtake Simon as well as Philippe to come in 6th position to give himself 3 points.
And we ought to look at the height of Matthias. We've got 2,400, and Andy with 2,300. Andy's 2,400 as well. So they're both on glide. They're both going to come home okay, but it's pretty clear now that Matthias is going to be a very happy boy.
He will be.
Something serious has got to happen now for Matthias not to clean this one up and come home first. Andy's coming, applying a blinder, coming on second, and Oscar's going to be a little bit disappointed, having built up such a big lead. He's going to be disappointed that he actually couldn't maintain that lead coming into that second turning point.
So it looks like Matthias Stern, with only a few kilometers to run now, and with a couple of 100 metres in hand according to our goal arrival height calculator. Andy Davis just bumping himself up onto glide, and Oscar not too far behind. And Jan in Zulu Zulu close behind that. Holger Caro in 5th place, which
Yes,
would give
11.
him just enough to maintain the overall lead. Christophe Abadet now 2,500 metres, catching Mike Young and Simon Schroeder. Mike and Simon climbing. It'll have to be good to climb before they go into an upwind turn point.
But
So this will be an interesting battle.
and Holger is on glide yet. Yeah, he's not on glide yet, but he's coming that way. Matthias is showing how strong the wind is. He's really gaining all the time on his glide, and he's very quickly going to be in a position to really push his speed up for the finish.
So Matthias still streaming ahead. Andy Davis in 2nd place, Oscar in 3rd. Very close now between Oscar and Jan. Well, Jan's a little lower than Oscar, and Holger Caro just behind that. So Brian's staying with us for this penultimate leg. Matthews has got this in the bag now.
He's in
hasn't
the
he?
bag, yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to be one happy Matthias at this rate. Andy's going to be happy. Oscar's the one who, even though he's put up a terrific flight, he's done a great performance, he's a really wonderful job, but he's going to be a bit disappointed he gave away his lead there. Jan's going to be happy, and I think Holger's going to be the happiest.
Oh, well, I'm sure he will be, yes. It looks
Holger
like he's going to win.
knows now that he's just got to come home with the others. He still probably needs a little bit more, but I would think that if he slows down, he's on glide now. I hope you've enjoyed this race. It's not over yet, but it looks like Matthias is winning. I've got to go and do my job on the runway, Sean. You've done a fantastic job, Sean. You're doing a
You've
really
not
great job for us. Thanks very much.
Not done too bad yourself. Getting these tasks in each day. Only lost one day this week in some very tricky weather conditions. So as Matthias comes into the final turn, in 2nd place we have Andy Davis, Oscar Hudrian in 3rd, and 4th place looks like Jan Omsels from Germany, closely followed by Holger Caro, also from Germany. It's possible that actually Jan has just taken a turn there. He doesn't really need it. If he just slows down, he can bump up what he needs on the way down track, as everybody else has. Just losing our leader's data. In fact, we've lost all of the data again, just as we come into the finish, which is a great shame. See if we can get the data back. Should be coming back any second now. And there's the relative positions of where all of the pilots are. I'm pretty sure that Matthias will be round the turn. And Angel Casada just working his magic to get the data back. Well, a real shame we've lost it just on this last section. What do we need to do, boys, to get this back? Anything we can do?
Oh, it's just coming back.
Apparently it's coming back. We've got a two-minute delay, so we've had a good minute of that. What was really interesting was the battle that we could see forming as they're coming around the penultimate turn, just to see whether Christophe Abadet could gain a few more places to get back up on the podium, or whether it would be Andy Davis on the podium. And we're just going to do a refresh of the screen, so just bear with us for a second and we'll get it back to you as soon as we possibly can. suffering from the bleeding edge of technology. Just got the screen coming back now. I can see some data coming on the director's screen next to me, and we'll push that across very soon indeed. Give us anything we can see there, Benji. Right, screen coming back now. So Matthias in the bat, coming towards the finish line. In fact, the data's not correct. It's not showing him going across the... Oh, sorry. If we can change the screen, Benji, we can... Looks like he's missing the finish line. Or we put the finish line in the wrong place. Let's just zoom out, so we've got a better idea where everybody is a little bit more. See the rest of the turn points, and change the screen, please. So we think Matthias is across the line. Andy Davis a little bit right of track. I'm just wondering what's going on here. Andy at just under 2,000 meters. They're probably just following a cloud street. So they'll come back towards the turn point. Oscar not too far behind. He's overtaken Jan again now. Holger Caro holding station behind Jan. And if we can have the ready reckoner on altitudes, that would be great. So a great win for Matthias. He'll be very, very happy about that. He's not had the best of weeks, but today will make up for it, I'm sure. And we've just got a great view now of Andy Davis taking the final turn in second place. Just managing his altitude, just slowing down a little. Oscar not too far behind, and Jan Omsels and Zulu Zulu just behind him. So Matthias Stern confirmed as our winner today. Andy Davis looks like he's going to come around the final turn in second place. Oscar in third, and Jan in fourth, with Holger Carroll in fifth, giving him 5 more points, and that's enough to secure the overall World Championship, Sailplane Grand Prix World Champion for 2016. Subject to ratification from our scorer and referee, of course, but we haven't seen them do anything they shouldn't do. Mike Young back up in the points, just behind Holger Caro. As Andy flies towards the finish line, guys picking up the speed now. 236, 37, 38 kilometers an hour now for Jan. Holger just being a little bit more patient, just making sure he's got enough height to get over the finish line. He doesn't want any penalty points. So coming into the finish now, Andy Davis, not very far to go at all. Just managing his altitude and his speed. Coming across the line at 200 kilometers an hour. Into the wind. Looks like the data's just going up the spout, but we'll follow him in through the finish line. Oscar about a kilometre behind after having led this race from halfway down the first leg all the way around and just missed a climb on the penultimate leg. Andy Davis now coming across comfortably over the finish altitude here of 1,463 metres. And Oscar coming in and doing the same. For third place and 7 points. That we believe if Holger Caro keeps his 5th place, we'll give him 35 points. Oscar will finish 2nd with 32 points. Andy Davis, we think, will finish 3rd with 29 points, but it all depends on the race behind. Jan will pick up 6 points in 4th place. And it'll be interesting to look a little further back down the track to find out where Christophe Abadé is and see what position he's likely to finish in. So Holger's in 5th, Mike is in 6th, Christophe Abadé looks like he'll finish 7th, which will give him 3 points. And if he's got 3 points, that makes him 31 overall, so he will finish 3rd and push Andy down into 4th. So it'll be interesting if he can just stay ahead of Philippe Depeche here. As Oscar's across the line, and Jan is now coming across the line to finish. He'll be very happy with that after having landed out yesterday. And actually, I'm quite happy he's back in one piece because he's flying my glider. Holger Caro now, just making sure he doesn't make any mistakes coming into the finish. Nice and high, not particularly fast, but he doesn't need to race. He knows there's nobody near him, and he probably knows he's done enough. Holger now just flying just under 190 kph. Doing a fantastic job. He's been consistent all week, actually, scoring 2 3rds, a 4th and a 1st, and just had one sticky race 3, where he finished 9th. Superb exhibition of fantastic flying. As Holger comes in to cross the line in 5th place and to win the competition overall. Well done, Holger. Just behind Holger is Mike Young, and it looks like Christophe Abadé in 7th place, which should secure his 3rd place on the podium. So we'll leave you now with the final finishers just coming in down that. It just leaves me to thank the team here. The video team have done a fantastic job of putting together all the highlights and cutting out all the cock-ups that we've been making all day. And Angel Quesada for all the data. Worked very, very hard indeed. It's not been very well this week. He's done really well. And my mate Benji, who's been working, being the producer of the live tracking. Brian for all the work he's done getting the races together. Our scorer Alex, and our referee Renee, and all the team here. Countless people here at the club have helped. So thank you all very much indeed. And that's another Sailplane Grand Prix over.